Queen summoned everyone to a private meeting. Everyone attended except Meghan Markle. And I'll be honest, I don't blame Meghan for not going, because nothing good happens when white people invite you to the countryside. We've all seen Get Out. We know how this shit...
Trevor Noah just went after Meghan Markle on live TV, and it caught a lot of people off guard. He's not exactly the kind of comedian most expected to take that kind of shot. Before we get into it, make sure to hit subscribe. It's free, and it really helps me out.
Harry is a f***ing twat. Like, my life was so hard. Everybody's f***ing life is hard. Yeah, you were the prince of a goddamn country.
For a long time, he came across as supportive of her side. He spoke up for her publicly, took jabs at the royal family, and framed things in a way that made it seem like she was the one dealing with all the problems within that system.
60 Minutes interview was a great chance to hear Harry and Meghan's story, in case you missed their 2-hour sit-down with Oprah or their 6-part Netflix documentary.
So when Trevor changed his approach out of nowhere, the shift was immediate. The whole atmosphere felt different. When someone who used to support you starts pointing things out, people quickly see that the tone has fully changed.
I know some people are disappointed by the name Archie, but there's one person who's super excited, the Queen. Yeah, because you know for the last 9 months, she's been like, please don't be Jamal, please don't be Jamal.
It goes back to when their son Archie was born. Trevor made jokes about the royal family, talking about them stressing over the baby's name and poking fun at the palace drama and all those traditions.
Prince Harry really did that. At a movie premiere last year, he asked the CEO of Disney to hook his wife up with voiceovers.
Hustling at movie premieres, pitching your wife to the CEO of Disney for voiceover work.
At that time, he was still giving Meghan the benefit of the doubt.
Gotta admit, the monarchy has fallen off, right?
The jokes were directed at the institution, not at her. And it came across like he believed she was the one dealing with all that pressure from the royal system.
Now it's like, my wife actually does a pretty good Timon. You should hear her. Come on, baby, do the thing. Hakuna Matata, do the...
Then came the moment that made people take a second look. The story about Prince Harry speaking with the Disney CEO at the Lion King premiere, essentially pitching Meghan for voiceover work, right there on the red carpet. That's when Trevor's view started to shift. All of a sudden, it didn't feel like just royal drama anymore. It looked more like a clear hustle playing out in public.
Harry said racism was a big part of their decision to leave, which you know things are bad at Buckingham Palace if they came to America.
Trevor laid it out in a way that was sharp, but still funny. Back then, royal marriages could change the course of entire nations. Alliances were formed, wars were prevented, and power shifted across continents depending on who married who. That was how it worked for centuries.
Harry, whose memoir just broke the Guinness record for fastest-selling non-fiction book of all time, the story of Prince Harold and his frozen yogurt slinger, is so popular, they're now releasing a version for kids. I don't know if you know about this. It's a twist on The Princess and the Pea. It's called The Prince and the...
It was all about history and strategy. And now, the royal storyline had somehow shifted into trying to secure a Lion King voice role at a movie premiere. The contrast was hard to ignore.
Why does Meghan Markle make her own pretzel bags? They don't know why.
That's interesting. She takes it from one bag and puts it in another bag.
It's another bag.
That confuses people.
This, we're just going to put into a different...
Trevor shifted from backing Meghan to calling out what looked like a hustle as it was happening. Once he did that, other comedians followed quickly. Late-night hosts in particular didn't hold back. Jimmy Kimmel was among the first to point out what he saw as a clear gap in their story. And once that door opened, the jokes started coming from all directions.
He'll say M and you'll say H and your friends say M and it just is a thing.
It's a thing.
And do you both love it?
Yes, and I like nicknames a lot.
What could it be? A mystery for the ages.
Their main explanation for stepping away from the royal family was racism. That became the headline everywhere. They said the environment around the royals was so hostile that they had no choice but to leave and start over in America. I got curious about what happened to Harry and Meghan's wax figures, so I tracked down the museum employee who's temporarily keeping them. Jimmy Kimmel quickly picked up on the odd irony in that whole story.
Guess what they did with Harry and Meghan's wax figures, so I found the museum employee who's temporarily storing them.
Jimmy Kimmel immediately spotted the strange irony in that story.
Oliver, you have generously offered to keep the wax figures of Harry and Meghan safe.
Yeah, that's correct. And if I may, I would just like to say that I'm definitely not using the wax figures for sex stuff.
The commitment to the bit was unmatched, but Conan kept pushing it further.
They are in a loving home, and I treat them better than the museum ever did. They didn't appreciate Meghan's soft hands or Harry's supple...
Kimmel didn't stop there. When Prince Harry released his memoir, he turned it into material for late-night comedy. The book was huge, running hundreds of pages, filled with personal stories about royal life, family conflicts, and everything happening behind palace walls.
Out of copping and then became a food broker, which we're like, come on, that's
What?
CIA, right?
Yes.
And
food
he's like,
brokers.
no, I really am a middleman for jars of jam.
He works for Meghan Markle.
Yeah.
Many jams, vegetable jams,
Yes, exactly.
made from the oils of Monte.
Kimmel looked at it and treated it like a massive public diary from a prince who was raised with an extraordinary level of privilege.
A great series about a rich, white, dysfunctional family, all scheming. Oh no, that's the Crown. That's the Crown. I'm sorry.
Kimmel looked at it and basically treated it like a giant public diary from a prince who grew up with unbelievable privilege.
How great was Imelda Staunton in The Crown? Wasn't she amazing? The portrayal of the Queen was so good. Prince Harry called her and asked her.
The way he played up that contrast had the audience laughing hard. Then Jimmy Fallon joined in.
Turns out Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. And that's just by Netflix.
And he picked up on a moment that people couldn't stop talking about. There was a clip of Meghan taking pretzels out of one bag and putting them into a more expensive looking one. That small moment blew up all over the internet.
On Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google this motherfucker?
To a lot of viewers, it came across as a clear example of taking something completely ordinary and turning it into polished lifestyle content. The internet took off with it.
Talking about she didn't know. It's the royal family. They're the original racists.
Stephen Colbert picked up on another detail that came across just as staged. The whole branding around H&M, like it was being presented as some kind of luxury label that needed its own logo.
Marrying into the Budweiser family and going, drink a lot. It's invested in slavery like it was Shark Tank.
The nicknames, the way their closeness was carefully shown, that constant feeling of image control. Colbert joked that everything about the couple seemed tightly produced, almost more like a marketing campaign than real everyday life.
So racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist. Because even black people want to know how brown the baby gonna be.
But Conan O'Brien took the jokes in an even stranger direction.
She didn't marry him. She would be on The Bachelor this season. For Prince, she would be Meghan M. from Domino's barista.
He tracked down a museum employee who was temporarily storing wax figures of Harry and Meghan. From that point, the story only became more bizarre.
Meg does her little phony like, I'm so busy just doing like so much wealthy stuff. I have the show, the podcast, I'm a duchess, I have all this wealth. It's just so many busy things as a wealthy person.
So busy.
It was so fake. I was like...
The level of commitment to the joke was intense, but Conan O'Brien kept taking it even further.
Markle is, of course, a lifelong feminist, which she's demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job.
He fully committed to the wax figure bit, playing it like he had personally taken them in.
Family, right? If you can imagine, they're like our Kardashian. Prince Harry is very much our Kanye. He occasionally dresses as a Nazi, and he f***ed up.
At one point, he joked that they were now living in a caring home and being treated much better than they ever were at the museum.
Meghan say they'd now like to split their time between spending your money in the UK and spending your money in Canada.
He even joked that the museum staff failed to appreciate details like Meghan's soft hands or Harry's perfectly styled lips. The whole bit was ridiculous, but in the best way possible.
Watch the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. But now I've actually heard their side of the story, I hate them.
Their public image had gotten so unusual that even wax figures of them were enough to carry a full comedy segment. And Conan kept going. He also took aim directly at Meghan's newest business move.
started off and they're making interesting points about racism and misogyny. Then they start calling each other H&M, and I just thought, oh, do f*** off.
Out of nowhere, luxury lifestyle products started appearing, including small jars of jam with upscale branding and high price tags.
Starts describing this one date with Meghan as the night, let me quote you here, me and M pulled the pin on a fun grenade.
Conan joked about how these products were being framed like rare treasures from Montecito. To critics, it came across as another attempt to turn ordinary items into high-end lifestyle products.
Harry says, how do you explain to someone who just started dating that they have to curtsy to your own grandmother?
How do you explain that you bow to your grandmother and that you will need to curtsy, especially to an American? Like, that's weird.
I'm thinking, maybe just tell her that your grandmother is the f***ing
Selling luxury products while also trying to come across as down-to-earth created a contrast that comedians couldn't ignore.
Were complaining that to pay for their own security, they were not happy about that. Yeah, they were very worried about their safety, which I get that aspect of things after 6 episodes. I wanted to
But the late night hosts were really just getting started. The stand-up comics came in much sharper. When Joe Coy hosted the Golden Globes, people were expecting the usual safe jokes.
We want it both ways. You know, you can't be, these people were so mean to us and poor us, and we don't want all this attention, and then let me write a book about how much we don't want it.
Instead, he went right at the headlines. In a single line, he summed up their situation as a dramatic TV show about a wealthy, chaotic family, just without any of the exciting twists.
Just strike me as creatures of that generation. You know, you're just fragile. Just take a hint from the Queen, the recently departed.
Never complain, never explain.
And Joe Coy kept going. He joked about Prince Harry calling a fictional actress who was playing his grandmother to ask for money. The crowd laughed because it sounded ridiculous, but at the same time, strangely believable.
Complaining about your hard life and you're so privileged. It's just so weird.
It's ridiculous.
Then he delivered the line that had people talking everywhere. Big Netflix deals, huge paychecks, yet a lot of viewers couldn't point to a single standout show. According to the joke, it looked like millions of dollars just for being in the spotlight. If Joe Coy set things up for the roasting, Chris Rock took it much further and went all in. He also focused on that well-known Oprah interview. Meghan sat there explaining how surprised she was by how the royal family operated, like the entire system had completely caught her off guard.
I will not bend the knee and just go along with the nonsense. That's what's so annoying about them. The most of all, they insist that you go along with their nonsense and their insanity and their...
Chris didn't believe that story at all. His point was direct and sharp. The monarchy has existed for centuries. The traditions, the rules, the drama, all of it is widely known. Acting surprised by it, he joked, was like joining a loud biker gang and then complaining that the motorcycles are too noisy.
I don't think they will change because I don't think they have the capacity to, but they...
Chris kept piling on comparisons, and each one landed harder than the one before. As he went on, his point became clearer. Then he went straight at the biggest moment from the Oprah interview. The conversation about what their baby might look like turned into one of the most talked about headlines everywhere.
President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK that will reopen British markets for American companies. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these...
Chris pointed out something that made the audience stop for a second, then laugh. Families everywhere sometimes wonder what a new baby will look like. Hair, eyes, skin tone, people speculate about it all the time.
With electric cars, he's going to Mars. Why is he even involving himself with Twitter? It would be like if the Prince of England gave it all up just to marry an actor from Suits.
His joke was that curiosity and prejudice are not the same thing. But in the way he told it, that moment ended up being turned into a global scandal that drove the entire narrative.
He has announced plans for a spin-off to the hit series Suits. It will focus on Meghan Markle's character's struggle to balance her legal career while also caring for an unemployed...
Once Chris Rock said all of that on stage, it felt like the door had finally been kicked wide open. After that, more comedians seemed willing to say what they had only hinted at before. Nikki Glaser jumped straight into the bigger question behind the whole situation.
I'm Megan Sussex, and I'm a good person. And I'm meeting another good person today, the wonderful Ariana Grande.
Oh my God, Megan, you're such a good person.
Yes, that's why I'm going to talk to you like you're an...
Her take was direct. Without the royal connection, the attention likely wouldn't exist at that level. No huge Netflix deals, no explosive Oprah interview, no massive brand built around the story. Nicki's jokes brought everything back to that single point. Comedian Godfrey picked up on something else as well. Once the fame and media attention took off, every appearance started to feel carefully polished. The interviews, the speeches, the public moments, all carried that same rehearsed tone. American comedians were already breaking down the image. But in the UK, the reaction was even stronger. For many British comics, it went beyond simple celebrity gossip. And Jimmy Carr opened his routine with a contradiction people couldn't ignore.
I'm preparing my guests some soul food that my British husband calls a packet of crisps. Can be a tricky dish to master, especially when a packet is being... Oh my god, you've been knocked down by the crisps. So vulnerable. I love it.
I'm just down here holding space.
And now, the finishing touches. A flat.
Jimmy Carr went straight at the contradiction people couldn't stop discussing. Meghan had built a large part of her public image around feminism and female empowerment. That message showed up everywhere, in interviews and speeches. Then a prince entered the picture.
And subscribe to learn how to breathe, how as a finishing touch sticking flowers on anything means you made it with love, and I share the secret to a happy marriage. Fuck's sake, H! Don't make me get the electric color out!
Sorry, love.
Everything in her life shifted almost overnight. Carr joked that the independent career, the Hollywood path, the whole direction changed right away. From that perspective, the punchline came naturally. And then there are the photos that still circulate online. The internet doesn't forget, and once something spreads, it usually sticks around.
Tricky part, place in microwave. What is microwave? I don't think we have any of that. Harry? Do we have any microwave?
It's a microwave, silly.
Don't talk to me like that, you bitch! I'm a fucking duchess! Shake that off!
Carr joked that no amount of rebranding could wipe away those old clips and photos people keep bringing up years later. Once the internet latches onto something, it stays there. Another contradiction people kept mentioning had to do with the lifestyle. There was a lot of talk about how difficult royal life was behind palace walls. At the same time, the couple were splitting their time between countries, while the royal system and public funding was still part of the picture. Critics in Britain were frustrated. From their point of view, taxpayers had supported the royal institution for years, and now they were hearing constant complaints about the very system tied to that lifestyle. Comedian Simon Brodkin decided to actually give them a fair shot. Instead of reacting to headlines, he sat down and watched their entire Netflix documentary series, all 6 episodes. Most viewers wouldn't have made it that far. Brodkin joked that he stuck through the whole thing just to see if the story would eventually shift direction. From his perspective, the H&M branding moment was where things really started to lose momentum. Moving from serious topics like institutional issues straight into cute couple nicknames felt off to a lot of viewers. The documentary was meant to reshape their image, a kind of redemption story. But for critics, it ended up becoming more material for comedians. That's when some commentators moved past jokes and started looking at the strategy behind everything. Bill Maher said he noticed a pattern from the beginning. For him, the biggest issue was the growing list of contradictions that no one seemed to address. He kept returning to that point on his show. He compared it to Queen Elizabeth's approach over decades. Rare interviews, very little explanation, and a lot of silence. In his view, that kind of restraint often earns more respect than constant public statements. But Maher said the silence wasn't even the main issue. What really bothered people was much simpler. Around the world, millions of families deal with real daily struggles. Jobs, bills, health problems, pressure that starts the moment they wake up. Then they turn on the TV and see 2 extremely wealthy public figures asking for sympathy. Maher argued that contrast is exactly why the story keeps rubbing people the wrong way. According to him, it goes deeper than that. It's not just about complaining. Public figures complain all the time, and people usually move on. What frustrates audiences more is when it feels like everyone is expected to agree, or else be labelled part of the problem. Ma joked that at times it sounded less like asking for understanding and more like expecting everyone to follow the same script. He made it clear he wasn't going along with that narrative. Then John Oliver stepped in with what many saw as one of the most direct takes. No big punchline, no dramatic setup, just a calm, careful breakdown. He's known for being precise with his words, which made it land even harder. When someone that measured starts openly questioning the situation, people pay attention quickly. Meanwhile, over on Saturday Night Live, Colin Jost had been taking shots at the situation for years. One of his jokes captured the strange position the couple seemed to be in. In his version, neither side really knew what to do with them anymore. The royal system didn't want the drama, Hollywood didn't quite know where to place them. The result felt like a kind of public limbo. Jost even compared Harry's choices to tech billionaires making chaotic decisions with their companies. The idea was straightforward. Someone can have everything lined up perfectly and still flip the table chasing something unclear. The comparison was extreme, but the audience immediately got the point. Then, SNL pushed the satire further with sketches that imagined their marriage as a TV sitcom pitch. Once comedians start turning your real life into scripted comedy, it usually means the public image has shifted in a major way. But some of the sharpest satire didn't come from late night TV. It came from the puppet show Spitting Image. Their version of Meghan became one of the most talked about characters on the show. The parody was so pointed that clips spread quickly online. At one point, they mocked luxury lifestyle content by presenting soul food that turned out to be nothing more than a bag of crisps with a flower on top. The joke worked because it exaggerated the kind of polished presentation people had already been seeing online. The sketches kept escalating, each one more over the top than the last, with puppet versions acting out increasingly exaggerated scenarios. The surprising part was that the writers didn't have to stretch things that much. One detail comedians kept coming back to was the Oprah connection. Living near one of the most well-known interviewers in the world raised questions. The joke was simple. If someone truly wants a quiet, private life, moving into the same neighbourhood as a global talk show figure sends a different message. In the Spitting Image sketches, that dynamic became a running gag. The puppet version of Harry often looked confused or overwhelmed, while puppet Meghan confidently pushed ahead with plans, branding ideas, and media moves. The satire was exaggerated, but it clearly reflected the public perception people had been debating online. What really got people talking was what happened after some of those clips started disappearing from the internet. Fans began speculating about whether outside pressure had something to do with it. Nothing was ever confirmed, but the rumours alone added even more curiosity. The moment content disappears, people want to see it even more. That kind of pressure supposedly didn't work on South Park. The show has been pushing limits for decades, and when they went after the couple, they went all in. Their episode turned Harry's large memoir into one harsh running joke. 600 pages of complaints got reduced to a single repeated gag, and the audience picked up on it right away. The setup worked because the writers didn't need extreme exaggeration. They just placed the characters in situations where the contradictions spoke for themselves. Each scene kept reinforcing the same theme, and every time, the joke landed a bit harder. What made it even funnier for viewers was how real headlines kept appearing afterward. The writers barely had to stretch reality. In some ways, it felt like the news cycle was doing half the work for them. Then came the final scene, which many fans called the most brutal part of the episode. The storyline mocked huge media deals and projects that people couldn't really remember afterward. That same idea showed up in other shows too. Family Guy delivered one of the sharpest lines about the situation. In one quick joke, they summed up the shift from Buckingham Palace prestige to modern influencer-style promotions online. The contrast was so strong, it almost wrote the joke by itself. But none of the animated shows went quite as far as The Prince. That series tore into royal drama from every angle, and their version of Meghan stood out as one of the boldest portrayals on TV. What made it hit even harder for viewers was how some of the material didn't feel that far from reality. Meghan's real-life lifestyle brand already sells high-end organic products with polished marketing and luxury packaging. The show simply pushed that world a bit further and dropped it into absurd situations. At one point, they even showed a scene where a dinner had to restart because the spotlight briefly shifted away. The joke leaned into the idea that media attention had become the centre of everything. For many comedians, that's the real theme running through all of this. The discussion was never just about privacy. In their view, the whole situation looked more like a fight over who controls the spotlight.